Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, yes.
Truth be told, I always have a curiosity to talk about the subject which are banned in Toastmasters. But at the same time, I also want to save myself being blocked or at least reprimanded by the president. So let me start. I begin by asking a politically loaded question. What do you think, what is the causes of Balochistan insurgency or unrest in Balochistan? I just need a couple of factors to build my argument. And keeping in the value of your opinion in weave, I would like to write them in capital letter on this large white paper with this bright marker. I just need a couple of the causes or the couple of factors which do you think think is responsible for the unrest in Balochistan.
Our own government is responsible for that because we don't have the opportunities over there.
Okay, got it. Lack of opportunity. Lack of opportunity. I'm sorry, not writing them in capital. Lack of opportunity. Okay.
A lot of natural resources there in Balochistan available. Therefore, the other agencies would not want peace in that locality. Otherwise, Pakistan can become an growing state.
Foreign interference.
Foreign interference. Yeah. Natural
Resource curse. Foreign. Someone said foreign.
Foreign interference.
Foreign.
Difficult geography.
Foreign interference.
Yeah.
Foreign interference. Thank you. Go ahead.
Injustice in allocation of resources.
In injustice. In
Allocation of resources.
injustice. In the distribution of resources, right? Distribution of resources. Resources. Well, thank you. I also heard and read almost the same thing in various literature, from various people, from newspaper. But when I when I took a closer look in these causes, I also found that climate change is also responsible in the unrest of Balochistan. I'm sorry, you may not heard it before, but believe me, it is not my personal opinion. There is an increasing opinion in the climate change community that there is a relationship between this drought, climate change, and war or unrest. I'm going to discuss it later on, but before that, I would like to mention that what is climate change? According to common observation, climate change is all about melting the ice and occupying our drying land. That is what we commonly understand. That's what the commonly climate change is being understood over here. Or it's all about flooding our markets or covering the roads, the water covering our roads. That is what we call it climate change. Or sometimes it's also related to some hot waves which are hitting us in the summer. Now, according to the face of this gentleman, I think this is only half of the story. Because emerging literature in the climate change now pointing towards something else. For example, now reports are trying to connect the global warming and forcing us to think about how global warming is making war inevitable and how they are linked. Recently, I got a book. This is the book. This is one of the best-selling book I have read in the current year about the climate change. The author of this book devoted one whole chapter about the climate conflict. I have taken this picture from this book, in which he discussed the climate change and conflict at global level, state level, and within the state. Similarly, one of my favorite magazine, The Economist, has recently published a report, and in which he proved that how heat and drought making conflict more fragile, or making the country more fragile and sending them towards the war, and how they are acting as a fuel of war. Now, that is what the literature review is. Coming to our own topic, war or unrest in Balochistan. The obvious cause of war is ideological. Some nationalist Baloch believes that they want to independent Balochistan from Pakistan. Nationalism is not the war's only fuel. There are other factors such as lack of opportunity, resource cost, foreign element, injustice in the distributions are equally important. But there is an additional factor. Apart from this long standing ills, which is created far away from us in an industrialized countries, and that is change. Climate change making Balochistan as a cocktail of disaster. It creating sea level rise, it is producing flood, it producing droughts, due to climate change. There are heat waves in Balochistan as well. Now there is a caveat. Climate change is making conflict more likely, but not inevitable. For example, African countries experienced same drought in 1980s, but only ill-governed Nigeria erupted into civil war. Likewise, a drought preceded by Syrian civil war also affected Lebanon, Jordan, and Cyprus, but none of them exploded. So it is not exactly to say that climate change is making all those wars. I think it's better to say in this way that climate change is acting merely as a spark which is letting the powder kick, or the complexities of all those vulnerabilities which is already there. And I think this complexity is one reason that we can't make a direct link to the climate change with this war. I have a similar slide to make it difficult. Just see that this is the drought. And over here, and you have a civil war over here. Drought is creating loss of livelihood. That loss of livelihood is creating migration. And that migration ultimately ending into the war. Now at this level, governance is also creating a difference. Those countries with a strong governance, political system, technological advancement are better equipped to cope with the disaster or the climate change. For example, here is I have taken this picture from USA, and this is Pakistan. The great Ebola cyclone hit Pakistan somewhere, and it's up to you to guess. And this is hurricane. Now, no sensible person expect an American civil war over this hurricane or the climate change. But a much poorer country like us, it cannot be ruled out. Now, my question is, have you ever heard about Great Ebola cyclone?
Yes.
Let me clarify it further. This Great Ebola cyclone hit us in 1970 in West Pakistan. I have taken this reference from here. It says that 500,000 people killed in a single night, in one night. The rest, as they say, is history. Thank you. Now we have a question and answer session, perhaps, if you have any questions.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
Sir, I want to, challenge or question this relationship between war and the climatical change. I can give you example of north areas of Pakistan, like you can take the example of Gilgit-Baltistan, or you can take the example of Punjab or Skardu. They have the extreme weather conditions both in summers or in winters. People face a lot of difficulties over there. There are a lot of heat as well in summers, and there are a lot of bad weather conditions in winters. So why not insurgency or the war taking place, or you don't find any emergencies or
Yeah, got your point. Thank you, thank you. Number one, I said and I repeat, climate change makes war more likely but not inevitable. The conflict is not a result of only climate change. Our neighboring country, Iran, have a similar experience with the Balochistan, but that remain stable. Thank you. I think we don't have a time left, okay? Timer?
No.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, and now for the third speaker, TM Memuna Sheikh, I would call upon her evaluator, TM Rama, to tell upon the objectives.